Hello everyone. I hope you are all doing fabulously well today. I hope your weekends are off to a wonderful start. I made a video here on YouTube about 7 months ago taking you through 25 different types of Anthurium in my collection and ranking them all in regards to how easy I found them to grow and just generally how rewarding I found them as a plant parent. And oh boy, have things changed since then. I've got some that sadly haven't made it. I've got others that have flourished and done really well. And then I have got some other ones that I just feel completely differently about now. So I thought today I could show you the then, I could show you the now, and I could talk you through what's changed. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yuli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learnt over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And I always really enjoy making these kind of videos because it, in most cases, reminds me how far I've come, and it also really highlights the things that I still need to work on. So yes, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So I'm going to take you through these plants in the same order as I ranked them in before, which I believe was the most difficult that I found them to grow to the easiest. The ranking has definitely changed since then, so I will talk you through that as we get to each plant. But the one that we're going to start with is one that I very sadly don't have anymore, and it is the Anthurium metallicum. But the first one is this one here, and this is an Anthurium metallicum. And the first time I saw this Anthurium, I'm pretty sure it was a social media thing, I saw it pop up and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, it's gorgeous. I would just love to add this type of Anthurium to my collection, and it's just been one thing after another and it has just not gone well for me. And as you can see, it is starting to give me a new leaf here. And although that is quite promising and quite exciting, based on my experience with the plant over the last kind of, I think, 8 months that I've owned it, I know that the cycle that it seems to go through is giving me a new leaf, that leaf looking lovely for, I don't know, a week or two, and then it just really going downhill and that leaf yellowing and dying off. So as you can see just from that clip, that plant was not doing well, and I always found that one really difficult to grow, to be honest. It's an Anthurium that I would like to try again with at some point, but for some reason, there's, like, for me, Anthurium is a genus that has species within it that I either just get on so well with and they're like my easiest plants, or they are ones that I just find near impossible to grow. And I don't know why. The metallicum was just that plant for me. I have obviously moved house since I first filmed that video, which was, as I say, 7 months ago. And I think, I can't remember how long I'd been in here, but it was within the first month of moving in, that plant just turned to mush and I was like, there's nothing more I can do. So sadly, that was a plant that went in the bin. But yes, on to the next one, which I believe is another one I don't have anymore, which is really sad. But it is the Anthurium warocqueanum. But then the next one is one that some of you may roll your eyes at and go, oh God, Claire, why are you doing this to yourself again? Because I have lost a few of these plants now. But this is the Anthurium warocqueanum, and I did kind of say probably about 5 months ago, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to try again with this plant for the foreseeable future. I'm going to wait until maybe I move and have a new environment and then I'll try again. Although it's not going as badly as it has done in the past, I've obviously still got some leaves here. Its most beautiful big leaf just there, I did actually lose, I think about 3 weeks ago, and I took a picture, I'll put it on the screen. God, we're off to a depressing start in this video, aren't we? But as I say, this list did start with the ones that I found the hardest, and arguably if I was to re-rank the warocqueanum, God, that's a tongue twister, I would probably put it even further down the list than the metallicum, purely for the fact that I have tried several times over the years to grow the warocqueanum, and for some reason it is just a plant that I cannot wrap my head around. I would love to grow that plant, but I think for now, oh, I don't know, I always say for now and then I'm always tempted and I always buy it again. But for the time being, while I'm kind of settling back into just finding my flow with plant care again and really getting on top of everything that I've already got, it's not one that I see myself buying again. I'd love to. I would really, really love to. But again, that one I had such high hopes for when I first moved in here. And in fact, I believe the video that I made about me moving in here, I sat and I chatted you through everything whilst setting that plant up for success. And I was like, it's a new start. Maybe I can turn a corner in a new environment. And in hindsight, I don't think I should have jumped in and repotted that plant straight away. I'm always one for saying it. Let your plants settle into their new environment, let them acclimate slowly. And really, I should have known better because that is one of the most sensitive plants I have ever grown. And yeah, again, similarly to the metallicum, it rotted and there was nothing I could do. So yeah, it's not one that I am forever giving up on because as I say, I would love to try it again. But for the time being, that's where we're at. And then the next one that I had on this list was the Anthurium bullatus. This one is the Anthurium bullatus. And again, you can't see much at the moment, but there are, if you look very, very closely, a couple of little, oh, there we go, a couple of little growth points that are coming back up. This is a really gorgeous, gorgeous loby Anthurium that I got, probably about a year ago now. And there has been points in which I've grown this plant where it has been looking quite good and quite healthy. So I think I would still rank this plant very low down the list because it is an Anthurium that I still do struggle with. However, it's got two, slightly raggedy looking leaves, but it has got two leaves now, which is progress, I guess. It still hasn't started producing those beautiful kind of mature loby leaves, which I would love it to do at some point. Ironically, back in the day when I first got it, the first few leaves it gave me were way more mature than the ones it's got now. But I think, again, considering it was not in a good state the last time I showed it to you, I think maybe this is just the plant bouncing back, and then when it's feeling a little bit stronger, it'll start to give me some better growth. But it's still not one that I would say I know particularly well, and I've had it for a while now, so it almost makes me think maybe I should mix up the way I'm growing it. I'm growing it in a tower pot, and the mix that I'm using for this one is, you can kind of see if you look at the top of it, it is very chunky and barky, but it is quite a soil heavy mix. And I know for a lot of Anthuriums, particularly epiphytic Anthuriums, they actually don't enjoy that much soil. So I'm very tempted to give it a go in semi-hydro, just because I've had so many of you say that you've had so much success with Anthuriums in semi-hydro. And I'd really love to get it right with this plant because it's still one that when I look at pictures of it, I'm like, oh, that feels like a wish list plant for me. But it just doesn't feel like I own that plant that I look at in the pictures currently because it's always just a little bit like this. So yeah, it's a work in progress. And like I say, I think it is going to require a little bit of TLC and a little bit of mixing things up, but I have more hope than I did the last time. I still wouldn't say this is an easy plant for me though. Like, as you can see, even though it's quite rigid in its texture and it's quite waxy, it's still got lots of browning and it's just, it's just not looking amazing. So I'd say we've turned a corner in the last 7 months, but I think we still have a way to go. And then this next one has fast become one of my favourite plants. It is my Anthurium regale magnificum. And this is the Anthurium regale magnificum hybrid, and it's got to be one of my most beautiful, beautiful Anthuriums. And I got this one as an import plant probably about 5 months ago now-ish, if I'm estimating. And it's done okay for me, but I feel like I've gone into this one a little bit nervous because the pure regale is a type of Anthurium, very similarly actually to the warocqueanum, that I have just found to be so difficult to grow. So far, I want to say this one has been so much easier than the regale, but I want to say it has been okay to grow. It's one that's very much kept me on my toes, and in fact it is currently starting to give me a new leaf there, which is so exciting. So this is what it's looking like nowadays. As you can see, in the last 7 months it has dramatically sized up. Just look at the size of those leaves. And weirdly, I would say in the last couple of months, despite the fact that it hasn't given me, it's pushing me out of shot, any new leaves, I feel like I have turned a little bit of a corner with this plant. The last few leaves that it gave me that were like dramatically bigger than the ones that you saw in the last clip, they came out fine, but all of them just got a little bit, I would say a bit crusty. Like, can you just see the edges? Like, they were all just a little bit warped and not particularly happy. And I did a bit of a deep dive on this plant and why this might be, because I have struggled with the regale, the pure regale, not the hybrid, the magnificum cross. I have struggled with the regale before, and I was like, maybe this is just a regale trait and I'm not doing something right. And one of you said to try increasing nitrogen levels, and I've had a little play about with the fertiliser balance I use for this plant, and although the most recent leaf it's given me, which is this one here, isn't perfect, it is better than the others have been so far. Again, I kind of feel like, oh my God, wow, okay, this plant needs a repot. I kind of feel like maybe, again, I should have a little bit of a mix-up of substrate, because this one is still growing in pure sphagnum moss, and that's what it was growing in 7 months ago. I just have been a little bit wary to change it out for anything, just because there have been times before, and again, I think I'm just scarred by the warocqueanum experience. There have been times before where I have switched out an Anthurium substrate and things have really gone downhill. And seeing as it was going so well in sphagnum moss and the roots were really developing, I was like, okay, maybe that's fine. But now I'm thinking long term, sphagnum moss obviously doesn't really offer any nutrients to the plant, bar like micronutrients. And it does just mean, again, you have to be very, very vigilant with your fertilising for the plant and with its nutrient requirements. So if any of you are growing this hybrid, I'd be really interested actually to know what you're doing. But my gut would say probably something really, really chunky. Like, again, not a particularly soily mix, but maybe sphagnum moss, orchid bark, worm castings, tree fern fibre, stuff like that. That would be my gut instinct. But I think I will be a little bit nervous when I transfer this one out, just because it's been growing so happily like that for so long. But my God, just look at the roots it's got now. Yeah, I also feel like it's probably getting ready to give me a new leaf. I can see this little bit on the bottom starting to swell, and I feel like with every new leaf, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's part of the reason why I've got it in a terracotta pot at the moment. That's just for the weight of it, because this is a heavy, heavy plant. But I feel like I'm slowly getting to know this one better and better, and I've grown to love it so much more as well. Like, I loved the look of it before, but now I feel like I have more of an actual connection to it because it's come such a long way, and I have just been on a bit of a learning journey with it. So yeah, I would rank this one higher now, actually. I think it would be somewhere around the middle of this list. I wouldn't say it's right at the top. I think I've still got things that I need to figure out, but I would definitely not have it as low to the bottom as I did the last time. And this next one has changed a lot since the last time I showed you it. It is my Anthurium Delta Force. And this is such a special one. It is my Anthurium Delta Force. And the last time I showed you this one, this leaf here, I was a little bit worried about because, again, it looks like the tip might be affected by something fungal. I did do a baking soda fungicide treatment on this one, and I did chop the tip of the leaf off. And that was, at least a month ago now. So I want to say that's kind of contained any issues, and it has been fine since then. They are very, very vulnerable, hence why, as you can see, I'm just growing this one under a cup for humidity and just kind of environmental protection. So obviously when I showed you this plant before, it was a teeny tiny seedling, and although it was growing well, I think I was still growing it like with a cup over the top of it and like a little cloche set up, and you couldn't really distinguish the fact that it was a Delta Force at that stage. And this is it now. Obviously, although its leaves are still small, they are very like Delta Forcey. You can really see the form starting to develop. However, if you look closely at the leaves, you'll be able to see they're a little bit raggedy because I did have thrips recently. In fact, I am still dealing with thrips. Like, I haven't seen any in a while, but that doesn't mean they're not there. I've released a ton of predators, but this is one that had black adult thrips on it, and they can be so hard to tackle. And again, this is another one similarly to what I said about the last Anthurium that I've been a little bit wary about like potting it up in something else. So again, it's still just growing in sphagnum moss. It has got a phenomenal root system in there, and I'm sure at this stage the plant definitely needs more space. But again, it is growing well and it is sizing up in this substrate. So I don't feel in any immediate rush, but I do think this is something that should go on my to-do list. I think it is time. And I've said it in videos recently as well, but the one thing I love with this plant is that this beautiful fern has just randomly popped up in the moss without me planting it in there. And I just think it frames the plant beautifully. And it actually makes me think that I would like to pot more ferns into my other plants just to be able to get the same aesthetic, because I just think it looks gorgeous. It's also a very good indicator having a fern in here when this plant needs a drink, because a lot of Anthuriums require much more water than you might actually suspect that they do. I've got some that I would let just go bone dry, and actually I think that's where a lot of issues lay. But because ferns are heavy drinkers as well, they wilt quite a lot when they're not getting enough water. So actually looking at this one, I've got a visual indicator a lot of the time when this one does need a drink. So that's also been quite useful for me. And if you are someone that has a very thirsty plant and doesn't always know when to water, maybe this is a neat little trick you could try. I don't know how you'd go about just getting the fern. I mean, mine just popped up randomly, but I guess you could just get a bit of like Boston fern or something and put little bits into your plants. I don't know. But yeah, it's one that I'm still very excited about. I still feel very fortunate to own. I think it has come such a long way, but I'm still learning with it. So I'd bump it up this list a few places, because I think most of the issues I've encountered have been down to pests, and that's me not staying on top of things properly. However, it again would be just on like lower than the middle, I'd say. I'll put a full ranking on the screen at the end of this video so that you can see where I would re-rank them. But yeah, it would be lower middle. And another one that I still continue to struggle with is the Anthurium veitchii. Again, it looks like not a lot at the moment because it is very small, but this is the Anthurium veitchii, and this is one of the first more unusual Anthuriums that I added to my collection, probably, oh God, getting on for maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. And I got it as a little plant that I found on eBay, not this exact plant, but I got it as a little plant that I found on eBay, and I found it really easy to grow. And maybe I don't know, maybe it was beginner's luck. And for the last 3 or 4 months, I would say it has been stable. Again, very similarly to how I've grown some of the others, I've got a layer of, I think this is leca at the bottom with then a chunky mix on top. So although this plant has given me a little bit of new growth since I last showed you it, you probably wouldn't even notice because I have lost a leaf in that time as well. This is a relatively new leaf and you can kind of see the little ruffles on it, even though it is still very, very immature. And again, this is a plant that I didn't used to struggle with. I had a veitchii for a couple of years and it did wonderfully for me. It eventually died of root rot, and that's me. I just was not good at monitoring my plants back then. I didn't know enough about overwatering. I jumped in and got the veitchii because I was so excited about it, and realistically, I don't think I was ready for that plant. But this is one that I have now transitioned to semi-hydro. This is just a coarse, chunky semi-hydro mix. And it seems happy. I mean, it's not doing a huge amount, but I also haven't had any more issues. The only thing I've really noticed is that the plant has been incredibly slow for me. So again, I know I'm saying it about all of them, but this one I do think is a real work in progress for me. I do hope that in another 6 months I'll continue to have lovely growth on it and it will continue to size up. It hasn't been too badly affected by pests, which is good. I have had a lot of pests in this space over the last couple of months, and this one I don't think has had any. But yeah, I don't really know. As I say, I don't typically use semi-hydro for Anthuriums. The reason that I have transitioned a couple to semi-hydro is mainly because I hear that you guys have such good experiences doing it, and I'm sure it will work and I'm sure it will be good for the plant. But you know, when something is just a little bit outside of your comfort zone, I wouldn't say I feel confident with it yet for Anthurium as a genus. And I just generally wouldn't say I feel confident with this plant. I also have just had so many sad veitchii experiences over the years. Obviously losing my first one, that was heartbreaking. And then also, if you guys remember, I was sent that incredible one very kindly from an Indonesian company, and things went downhill so quickly. And again, it rotted and I lost, oh my God, the veitchii I had. Its leaves were like that big. They were insane. And yeah, that was heartbreaking. So again, it's not another one that I would buy big. I'm very much sticking with it as a little baby. I'm trying to get it to size up and do the best I can, but we're just going very slowly, taking things easy. But I'd keep this one in the same place. I'd keep it fairly close to the bottom. I'm not confident with it yet, but also I'm maybe not as terrified of it as I was before. And then this next one is another one that was a wishlist plant of mine for such a long time. It is the Anthurium draconopterum. It's one that I really haven't had for that long, hence why it is quite low down in this section. But it's the Anthurium draconopterum, and this was such a wishlist Anthurium for me for such a long time. And I am so happy that I finally acquired it. In my short time of owning it, I've only owned it a couple of months, it is already giving me a new leaf, which is so exciting. So as I said in that last clip, I had only just very recently got the draconopterum when I showed you it in that video, and initially we were off to a really good start. However, I'm very sad to say that this is what it's currently looking like. And again, I think this is down to a few things. It all started going downhill when I moved house. I think the environmental shift is one thing. Obviously, I had to get used to a whole new environment, different levels of light, all of that sort of stuff. But also, I did actually, in my houseplant reset video, make the decision to chop all of its leaves back just because it had been so badly, oh my God, I can't speak today, so badly affected by thrips. And I think because this one, although it looks quite robust, its foliage looks quite waxy, it's actually super thin. Like, it's almost like a very papery thin alocasia. And I think for that reason, in fact, a lot of Anthuriums in this kind of category, feel-wise, do also have the same problem of like being very sensitive and being susceptible to so many things. In my short time of having lots of leaves on this plant, I think the most I got up to was 4 at one point. I dealt with spider mites, I dealt with thrips, and so it did feel like the right thing to just lop it right back and start again. And it has actually got, just here, I know it's a little bit brown on the top, but it has got a new growth point that I would hope will start maybe throwing out some new leaves in the next few weeks. It's such a great time of year at the moment because it's quite warm. I'm keeping the humidity really high in this room at the moment. I'm trying to just run my humidifier for a little while overnight, so I come down in the morning and humidity levels are really nice and really high. And in theory, I think the position I've got this plant in should be keeping it happy. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I think it would definitely benefit from a tower pot, which, as I've showed you already, I've used for quite a lot of my Anthuriums, which are just the much taller pots, purely for the fact that as they grow upwards, you can fill either the soil or whatever substrate you're using around them to kind of help aerial roots like that little one just there root down into the substrate and form an even stronger root system. Because still, this one is growing in exactly what it was growing in when I first got it, which looks to be kind of perlite orchid bark, bit of sphagnum moss and a little bit of soil. You can see that this is in fact just like cataphyls that I've taken off and put back into the substrate. I will often do that because over time they break down and kind of compost into the soil. It does take a long time when you do that with houseplants, but it is very similar to what would happen in nature. So I'm just like, let's let it do its thing. The only exception for this is if I'm using semi-hydro, then I will absolutely remove any organic matter from the substrate. But if I look at the bottom of the pot, it has got some roots coming through and they do on the whole look very healthy. It might benefit from a pot upgrade, but I would personally think for the time being, I should just let it kind of kick back into action, re-establish itself in this space, monitor the plants, change things up if I need to, but maybe hold off the repot just for the time being. I have actually noticed, which I hadn't noticed either up until this point is that it has also got a teeny tiny, just there, little growth point coming out of the side as well, which could be a very positive thing in the long run. It could mean that the plant becomes much fuller, but it is one that I am finding tricky. So again, I'd put this down. I'd put this maybe like around the bullatus mark, the one that's now got 2 leaves. I put it maybe 3rd on this list just because it was not as easy as I initially thought. I do often wonder if, how much can you blame an environmental shift? My move wasn't particularly treacherous on my plants. I only moved like half an hour away from where I was living before. But I do wonder if it had stayed in its old environment, maybe would it have carried on being fine? I don't know. But yeah, it's still one that I am not giving up on. I absolutely love. It's still a wish list plant, despite the fact I'm holding it in my hands. So I am determined to get to the bottom of it. But at the moment, again, work in progress. Okay, and this is a slightly more positive one. This one I actually didn't show you in my Anthurium video before. I just briefly mentioned it and I said, I'm not getting on with this plant. I've got it in a prop box. We'll come back to it and see what it looks like. And it is the Anthurium angamarcanum. And it is actually doing okay. So this is the only leaf it's given me since it's been out of the prop box. And I only took it out maybe 4 months ago. These are the leaves that it gave me when it was in the prop box. And again, they're a little bit raggedy. They're not amazing, but so far this one doesn't seem to have any browning or anything like that. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it will keep going in this way. This is another one though that I almost want to put in the same brackets as the metallicum. Firstly, they do look very similar, but again, it's got very thin leaves, despite the fact that it is actually a velvet leaf Anthurium. And I do just find those types of Anthuriums typically really quite hard to grow. So this is a good sign, and this does feel like we're making progress, and it is so much more positive than it was the last time I talked about this plant. So it does feel like an achievement, but I wouldn't say we're out of the woods yet. But yeah, it's just one that I think is beautiful. It's got such gorgeous, gorgeous foliage. I love the kind of subtle but yet dramatic veination on it and the length of the leaves as well. And when this one's mature, it can look beautiful. So I'm really, really holding out hope that I will get my head around this one. Again, as you can see, I am growing it in a tower pot. And again, it is just growing in sphagnum moss. I should probably mix things up again, but whilst root systems are developing, I'm always tempted to stick with sphagnum moss, and it's how it was growing in the prop box. So maybe I'll be brave and have a shift up of this soon. It did have quite a thin, spindly root system when I looked at the roots before though, so I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what else I should do apart from sphagnum moss at this stage, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, I'm taking this as a win. And then this next one, I've accidentally just ripped a chunk of leaf off it as I was bringing it over, but it is my Anthurium magnificum. It's become a little bit of a struggle for me. And it's the Anthurium magnificum. And I got this one when I was living back at my mum's house from my friend Emma, good growing. But the good thing is with this one, it has got a new growth point just there. And that is the first new growth point in a really long time. So I feel like I'm kind of making leeway with this plant. Maybe this is the start of it kind of, I don't know, bouncing back to where it was before. So this is another Anthurium that has been impacted badly by pests, and often a very telling sign of pests is when new growth comes out looking quite warped and funky like this. You can see, although I believe it is pest free now, it really has suffered. So although this plant has given me, again, a new leaf since the last time I showed it to you, it's still one that, like, I don't know. There was a time where I found the magnificum such an easy plant. This one originally, I think probably about 4 years ago now, came from Emma's collection, Good Growing. She gave this plant to me because she was struggling with it. And I remember for the first year I grew it, she was like, oh my God, you're having so much luck with this plant, because it was shooting out the most insane growth. At one point it gave me a leaf like that, and I was like, I've just sussed it. This plant loves me. And then something changed and I don't quite know what. And now, although it's got this lovely leaf here, which, I mean, it is a beautiful leaf. It's undeniably a beautiful leaf, but it just hasn't been as simple for me since the point that it all started going downhill. So yeah, like again, I'd kind of query whether or not I'm growing in the right substrate. I think this one looks to be, in fact, it looks pretty good. It's got lots of moss on top to kind of support the aerial roots. But again, I think I could do more because just look at the top of the pot and look at all of those roots. I think I need to fill it up way more to support those aerial roots. But I've got moss on the top layer and then I've got soil, orchid bark, kind of just like a standard chunky epiphytic mix that previously was keeping the plant happy. I think maybe I need to just pot upgrade as well because I've got roots coming out of the bottom. I can see them all pushed up around the side of the pot. There's quite a lot of algae in there as well, which typically I don't worry about too much. A lot of the time it is actually just a signal that you have got good levels of moisture in there. And obviously algae just occurs whenever there is light present, and this one is currently under a grow light. But if you do let algae build up like a lot, it can eventually kind of stop the roots from essentially kind of getting all the oxygen they need. So maybe I might do a repot on this one and see if that helps. But yeah, I think I'd keep this one kind of in the same place. It's one that I don't know. I haven't been getting a huge amount of joy from in a while, besides the fact that I could admire this gorgeous leaf, just purely for the fact that I don't feel like I'm doing the best things for this plant. I know I'm saying that about a lot of them, and I have just had a big clear out, but it's not one that I would be willing to part with at this stage. I think there's a lot of learning still to be done, and I have figured it out before. So yeah, I think I just need to dedicate a little bit more time to my Anthuriums and to just kind of like listening to them a little bit more and observing them, because I think I've done a lot of guessing. But yeah, there's clearly things that I'm still not getting right. And I did think this when I wrote out the list of all the plants I'd spoken about 7 months ago, and I was like, there's a lot that I'm going to talk about today that is not good. It always, like, as a planty creator, makes me think, oh God, should I put that online? Should I not? But also I do think it's important to acknowledge that even people that like do planty stuff full time, and like I always say, I am not an expert, and I think this is just proof of it, guys. Things go wrong all the time, and sometimes even if it's just like little things going wrong here and there, it doesn't feel like much. When I'm putting a lot of these side by side, I'm like, oh God, so much has gone downhill. There are lots that haven't as well, and we will get onto them, but like I say, this one is definitely one that still requires a lot of attention, and I'm going to set myself the challenge of really conquering this one this summer, because I do believe we can get back there. This next one's another little hybrid. It is my Anthurium King of Spades cross red Crystallinum. I'm pretty sure it's a King of Spades cross red Crystallinum, I think, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And again, this one it's been easy-ish to grow, but it has been one that's been quite susceptible to pests. The last leaf I chopped back because it did have thrips, again juvenile thrips that just get right into the cells of your plant. And I'm afraid there's not much to show. It lost that lovely leaf, and the only encouraging thing that I am just noticing now is that it has in fact got a little new growth point in there. Can you see the little bit of green? So the plant's not a goner, but again, it's just one that I don't think I'm growing in the right way, and I don't think I have sussed yet. I didn't get an accurate ID on this plant for absolutely ages, and that's definitely not an excuse. I think it's easy to say, oh, well, I didn't really know what it was, so therefore that's why it's gone downhill. I just think I haven't been doing the right things. I've got it in this jar, which again, I can see huge algae build up in. So I think really, it has got some good roots though. You see a good root just there? I think really I need to take it out. My gut would say to put it into sphagnum moss and to kind of rehab the root system a little bit that way, and then hopefully it will shoot out some lovely new growth. But yeah, currently not a lot to say. That's what it's looking like. That is my plan for the plant, and hopefully we can look back at it soon and have a new leaf. And the last time I showed you these next ones, they were just little seedlings. And again, I feel like they have come a really long way since then. I believe they are pure papillilaminum, so let's go with that. You wouldn't currently, although it's very juvenile, believe that perhaps this was the same type of plant. This is supposedly a pure papillilaminum. That is such a tongue twister. But yeah, and I can see, obviously, I think it's 100% got pappy in it. I'm like, and as I say, it's such early days with this plant, but I'm not convinced it's pure. So this is what they're looking like now. I've actually got two in here. This one is obviously the most well established of the two. I've also got this teeny tiny one here that I chopped right back, again due to pests a little while ago, but that little leaf is just adorable. And I say pure papillilaminum just because I was sent these as tissue culture babies. And in fact, I was sent about 6 of them, and I took a load to another plant swap last year. And actually, funnily enough, one of the guys that I swapped them with, Francesco, he has been growing it as well, and his has grown very differently to mine. So I'm wondering if we might have slightly different things. As this one kind of grows and matures, I'm starting to think that it's not a pure papillilaminum. I think it's probably some other things in there, but I'm not quite sure what they'd be. And I think maybe I need to let a few more leaves form before I can actually make that or draw a conclusion from that. When its new growth comes out, it's very pinky. You can kind of see this one's actually hardening off now, but you can kind of see compared to the backs of the other leaves that this one has been quite pink. And whatever it is, I'm loving growing it. I think it's so pretty. But yet again, you can tell the ones that I'm always a little bit nervous of because I haven't changed the substrate. In fact, I don't think I've even changed it since the last time I showed you this plant 7 months ago. It is still in sphagnum moss. So again, for some reason, I don't feel as nervous to transition this plant into something else. So maybe I will go in with like a chunky soil mix. I think just because this one's been a little bit more predictable in its growth. Yeah, I would keep this one in the kind of middle range because I don't know it well enough yet, but it also hasn't given me too much grief. It does feel like a fairly hardy Anthurium. But yeah, I'd be very interested to know what you guys think this is. Do you think it's a pure pappy? Do you think there's other things in there? And if so, what do you think they are? It's just gorgeous, whatever it is. But yeah, I'd be very keen to get an actual idea on it. So if you've got any theories, please do comment them down below. This leaf actually looks like it might be starting to die back, which is a shame, but I'm just going to let it stay there, do its thing, and we'll come back to this plant soon, and hopefully it will be looking much better established and much healthier once it's had a good pot upgrade. And then this one is an absolute classic. I could not imagine my collection without it. It is the Anthurium clarinervium. I actually brought over the little baby plant to show you of this one, even though I do have a big full mother plant. Firstly, because I ran out of space to bring Anthuriums over. And secondly, because this one is very special to me, because not only did I grow it from seed, I actually pollinated the mother plant and I got the seeds myself, and it was such an amazing process and something that, as I say, has sparked a passion for wanting to do it much more. So in that last clip, I just showed you one of my little baby Anthuriums. I think because I was filming at the flat, I didn't have a lot of space and I couldn't like bring all of my plants over. But I have since potted that little baby up with the mother plant. So this is the one that actually I pollinated and harvested the berries from when I first moved into my flat, which is probably about 2.5 years ago now. So yeah, this is the baby and this is the parent plant, which is quite nice actually finally having them growing in the same pot together. And I do hope that when that one kind of starts to put out lots of new growth and sizes up, it will just create a really beautiful full plant. And the clarinervium, if I was to re-rank this one, I would put it way higher up the list, just because although it hasn't been one that has like been without issue, I think any plant in my collection that I've had for multiple years at one point or another has encountered some kind of issue, but it has just been pretty hardy and pretty reliable. You can see just here, actually, I did This is another one that had pests on it recently, and this new leaf was affected, which is such a shame. But I do think that now I've kind of got things a little bit more under control, and I am vowing to stay on top of things better. I hope that as the plant continues to grow and fill out, it will just be much more pest-free and therefore without damage. But yeah, it is one that I haven't struggled too much with. It's one of the first like rarer plants. I know it's much more accessible nowadays, but one of the first ones that I at the time thought was super, super rare that I brought into my collection. And considering I didn't actually know that much about plants, I wasn't as experienced, obviously, as I am now with plants. It's been one that's kind of gone solid through the years. And yeah, it just makes me really, really happy. I think it's so beautiful. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty easy, pretty solid Anthurium for me. I am growing this one in tree fern fibre, orchid bark, perlite, and I think a bit of soil. The mix looks like that. And it is keeping the plant really, really happy. So I don't have any any major plans to mix it up anytime soon. I can see that the root system in there is really, really healthy, nice and full and pale. So yeah, I think this is one that actually I don't have to do too much to at the moment. I can also see it is giving me another inflorescence, which I will probably pollinate. I have got some clarinervium pollen, so I could absolutely try and pollinate it again. I've said it before, this one is so slow from pollination to harvest. Previously, I think it took me about 1.5 years, which is crazy considering the fact that I've pollinated Anthuriums in the time I've been living here and already harvested the berries, and some of them are already rooting. So yeah, it's definitely a slow one, but I think it's worth the wait. It's just gorgeous. And then this one is fast becoming one of my favourite Anthuriums. It is the Anthurium El Condor. It is still very juvenile at the moment, but I'm very, very excited about. And this is the Anthurium SP El Condor. And oh my goodness, again, I will have to put some pictures on the screen so that I can show you what this plant looks like when it's big and mature, but it is just gorgeous. And I know I've spoken so much about my love for loby plants in this video. You will see very much why I love it when it's big and mature, because it's so pretty. And I've had this one for maybe 5 or 6 months now, and although it is still a baby and it is one that I keep a very close eye on, it has been next to plants that have had so many issues, and it has just given me no grief at all, hence why it is further up the list. So this is a growth comparison I am really, really proud of, because this is the most mature leaf that this plant has just given me, and how gorgeous is that? In the last clip, I think I'm right in saying that that was its biggest leaf. So I think, considering 7 months. I think 3 pretty mature leaves in that time for an Anthurium that I'm not familiar with, have never grown before, and actually has quite a few similarities to things such as the bullatus that I'm struggling with. I think it's pretty good. I feel pretty happy with this. And the thing that really excites me about this Anthurium is the form that it takes when it matures. This essentially will get way more roughly. If you look at the edge already, can you see how it's kind of crinkly? But yeah, when this plant's big and mature, it goes really roughly, really strappy, really loby. And that is everything I love in a plant. So I'm so happy this one is growing well for me. And perhaps I should take a leaf out of my own book here for how I'm growing this one and apply it to some of my other struggle Anthuriums. It's a way that it was kind of a bit experimental, but it has worked well. I'm growing it in no drainage with semi-hydro on the bottom layer here, and then quite a chunky soily mix on top. And in fact, again, I have just put some sphagnum moss just to layer the top there. And it's obviously seemed to be doing really, really great things for this plant. So yeah, maybe I'll mix it up and maybe I'll try that for some of my others. But this is one that just really, really excites me. I'd put it way higher than I've ranked it now, having grown it for another 7 months. I'd say it would be in my top 5 now, because it hasn't given me any grief. It's been very, I'm always so hesitant to say a plant is easy because we know how quickly things can change. But it has really been quite easy for me. It's been very rewarding. It's just been wonderful. So yeah, long may this last. I'm so excited to see what it does for me next. It seems to be as well, now that it's kind of got going, it seems to be quite quick to grow. I know 3 months in 3 leaves in 7 months might not seem like a lot. I'm actually wondering if that was the leaf it had when I showed you it before. But yeah, it might not seem like a huge amount, but while the plant is sizing up and reaching maturity, I think that's pretty good. So yeah, I can't wait to see what it does next. And then up next, I've got the Anthurium Crystal Hope. And this is an Anthurium Crystal Hope. And I don't know why I've put it this high up the list, because obviously I haven't grown it for that long. I've had this plant for a couple of weeks, if that. I can say that in my time of owning it so far, it's got 2 new leaves. If you look down there, look at that. 2 new leaves already getting ready to unfurl, and I don't remember seeing them when I first got the plant. So I do think it's going to be quite a fast one to grow. So as I said in that clip that you just saw, I hadn't owned that plant very long when I showed you it the first time, and this one has grown so much. And I've got to say again, guys, this is another one that I'm growing in the same way to the El Condor. I'm growing it in no drainage, semi-hydro on the bottom, and then a chunky soil mix on top. So again, I'm like, maybe I should be doing this for more of them. Maybe this is just something that really works for Anthurium. But this one shoots out new growth for me all the time. I can see it starting to give me a new little leaf just there. And I just think it's so pretty. I went on a bit of a deep dive as well, because there was debate in the comments of one of my videos about what this plant actually was, whether the Crystal Hope was actually a silver blush cross. And I believe from what I found out that it is just a variant of the Crystallinum that has gone into tissue culture, kind of like the Delta Force, like a weird genetic variation has occurred and people go, oh, we like that. And they've essentially cloned it. So that is what I'm under the impression it is. But it grows so much quicker than any Crystallinum I have ever owned. And it doesn't seem to be sizing up that much. Like, its foliage does seem much smaller, which makes me think like that does kind of make me go, well, maybe it does have some silver blush in it. But yeah, if anyone actually knows and can answer this question, I'd be very interested to know. But yeah, it's just one that really has given me no grief. I typically, with the ones that I grow in this way with semi-hydro on the bottom and soil on the top, I will wait until the soil looks really quite dry. And then either I will just, like, for example, if there's still some moisture in the soil, but certain areas are looking a little bit dry, I'll put like a straw or like a long funnel thing down into the soil, and I will purely target the reservoir down there and kind of let the roots feed from the bottom up. Or I will just give it a light watering all the way through until I can see a little bit of water at the bottom. And then again, it will just feed on what it needs. And I haven't had any issues doing things this way, although I know it is a method of growing that some people might be a little bit wary of, because, I don't know, soil growing with no drainage is often a bit of a no-no. But yeah, I love it. I don't have a huge amount to say apart from I just think it's an amazing plant. I feel really glad that it's done so well for me. And I think I'd put this one... Oh, I know we're getting onto the good ones now, and the ones that are actually doing well. Again, I want to say top five in terms of not giving me grief and just being really, really easy. So yeah. And before we move on to the next one, I just wanted to give a little honourable mention to this Anthurium, which I can never remember the name of, so I'm going to have to put it on the screen. This one, I feel like I've had for more than 7 months. I either didn't include it in my last video, or maybe I got it since then, but I feel like it's been longer than that. Or it was one of the ones in a prop box not doing well at that time. But this one is just beautiful. I love how the new growth comes in so dark red that it almost looks black, and then it fades to this lovely green. Again, this is one that I've just found really easy to grow. I'd put it in the top 10 of this video. I wouldn't put it in the top 5 because, again, I feel like I'm still getting to know it. But again, this one is one that I'm having huge success with growing in quite fine orchid bark, perlite, and again, I believe a little bit of soil. I did pot this, or resize this one's pot recently. and it's done very well like that. So yeah, although I didn't show you it last time and there's not a growth comparison, I just wanted to make sure that I got it into this video because it's awesome. And then I have just got the standard Anthurium Crystallinum. This is a very, very young Crystallinum. I got this one, I believe I actually got this one at Malvern, and they weren't quite sure what it was, and I'm pretty sure it is a crystallinum, just a pure crystallinum, but it's been so easy for me, so easy. It's grown in high light, low light. It's currently growing over by my TV, which as you can see has got a grow bar underneath it, but previously I didn't have anything there and the plant still put out growth there. And this one I am growing in the same way as I was growing it before. It's done okay, it hasn't done great. It is giving me some new growth at the moment, which I'm very, very happy about. But again, you can see if you look at some of these leaves, this one has been thripped. They're very, very mottled and not looking as great as they could be. So I think for this type of plant, I don't know, like, I think because it has the potential to grow quite fast and also quite big, maybe this isn't the best way to grow it. I think actually a tower pot would offer more aeration to the roots, and I think it would do the plant better. So yeah, that's something that I massively want to change up. And in fact, I do plan, and I know I've been saying this for weeks, but I do plan on potting this one up with my Crystallinum magnificum that I will show you now what it looked like 7 months ago. And this one is sizing up so quickly. This is the Crystallinum magnificum hybrid, and if I just hold that next to my face, just look at the size of that leaf. It's absolutely gorgeous. And this is like what I was saying earlier in the video about the magnificum having the potential to like ridiculously size up. I don't know, considering the crystallinum doesn't typically get much past this from what I've seen as like in a home environment, I'm wondering just how much this one's going to continue to size up, because that is a pretty significant jump even from this leaf here. And yeah, this one, again, not looking great compared to how it was before, but it's still got the leaves it had before, but it's just been, again, I think a little bit stifled in this way of growing. I know I was just saying about how I'm getting on really well with semi-hydro on the bottom and then soil on top. I think for, oh, there's a spider on the back of the leaf. Ugh, get off, please. Yeah, I do think for certain types of Anthurium that do, like for example, magnificum hybrids, like that do have the potential to get very big, I do think they need more aeration around the roots. I know you can get away with it with some of them, and for some, in fact, like the El Condor and the Crystal Hope, it is doing well, but I'm not convinced for this type of plant. So on my to-do list that I just need to crack on and do, I do plan on getting this one out of this method of growing and then potting it up with the pure crystallinum here. I'm trying to just combine as many plants as I can at the moment that feel right to do, so that I will be able to create fuller plants, also have less to look after. And because, although this isn't a pure crystallinum, because they have very similar characteristics, I think potted together, they will look really, really lovely, and it will just allow the plant to look a lot more full. So that is my plan. I just need to do it. And then this next one is a plant that I actually showed you in a video the other day, but it's one that I typically don't talk about that much, not because I don't think it's gorgeous and I don't love it, just because it is so ridiculously slow to grow. It is the Anthurium morona. This one is the Anthurium morona, and I got this one, I think at about the beginning of the year, so about a year ago now, when I was first getting into kind of strappy Anthuriums. And I have said it before, but I'm just so obsessed with texture in plants, and I think when you've got lots of plants, something like this with just kind of long pendanty leaves just really stands out and just looks so gorgeous. So yeah, this is what it's looking like now. It's got one new leaf since the last time I showed you it, which again, 7 months ago, like that might seem like, oh, it's fine, it's got a new leaf. But I have got some Anthuriums that have given me like 7 new leaves since then. So this one, I love the strappiness of it. I also love the like waxiness. I think it's so lovely, but it's just one that I don't expect too much from, if that makes any sense. I love it in the spot that I've got it in my living room. I think it looks really pretty just trailing off the shelves. It offers a lot of texture to that area. And I do, like, oh my God, when this plant gives me new growth, I get so excited, so excited. But that hasn't happened for a while. And actually, I'm just having a look and peeling back caterpillar bit here. Yeah, it doesn't even look, no, it doesn't even look like it's preparing to give me a new leaf. So I do wonder maybe if I was to move it into this space that's got a bit more natural light, maybe it would do better for the plant. But then again, it is over by a window. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I might have a play about and a rejig with some of my plants at some point. But I've found it very easy, but I haven't necessarily found it the most rewarding, if that makes sense. So I think I would keep it about this position on the list. It's one that I think if I had all of my Anthuriums lined up next to each other, I could probably lift out of my collection quite easily and not miss. Is that fair to say? Yeah, I think just because it doesn't excite me in the same way as the others, which doesn't mean I don't love it and I don't appreciate it, because I do. But yeah, it's one that you've got to be prepared to wait for. And another one that I just wanted to include, because I didn't include it in my last video 7 months ago, I think I must have got this one in the last 7 months. I know it came from Eastern Tropicals, but I can't remember exactly when I got it. But it's the Luxurians Magnificum hybrid, and this has become one of my favourite Anthuriums. I think it is just gorgeous. I actually prefer it to my pure Luxurians that I'll show you in a minute. I just love the texture of its leaves, and because obviously it's got Magnificum genes in there, it has the potential to get so big. So big. And I can see actually a leaf just there getting ready to die back. In fact, yeah, that just pulled right away. Yeah, that one is obviously dying off. But apart from that, again, it really has just been so easygoing, hasn't given me much drama, hasn't been affected badly by pests, and I'm just so excited for the potential of this Anthurium. So again, I think I put this in my top 5. I really do. I think it's just wonderful. It's another one that I don't think that I've repotted since owning, so it's just in whatever the mix was that I got it in from Eastern Tropicals. It looks like it's got, again, some like chunky orchid bark in there, lots and lots of perlite. And it seems to be keeping the plant pretty happy. I would have thought, just considering the size of the growth it is now starting to give me. In fact, oh, there's a new growth point there as well. Yay. I would have thought it probably will be happier in a bigger pot, so I should probably take a look at the roots and consider repotting this one quite soon. But it's not complaining in any way. It's just ticking along, loving life, looking gorgeous, and making me very happy. And then the next one is my Anthurium vitarifolium. And another strappy Anthurium that I am absolutely loving is the Anthurium vitarifolium. And this one, as I was just saying with the last one having the white veination, this one doesn't have any white on the veination. It's very, very green. But again, I do just like how that contrasts with ones that then do have the white veination. It just makes them all feel very, I mean, they are very individual, unique plants, but do you know what I mean? I just like having variety. So this one nowadays, I don't think I was growing it this way before, but I am actually growing in a hanging pot, and I'm growing this one as a hanging plant. And it seems pretty happy like this. I did have some damage whilst moving on some of the younger leaves. They got trapped. I actually don't know how none of the big ones were badly damaged, but I think maybe they were facing a different way. They got trapped under a box, and I could have left them on there. It was mainly aesthetic reasons why I chose to chop this plant, but they were just looking a little bit like warped and mangled, and so I decided to chop them back. And this one actually hasn't given me a leaf in a couple of months now, but it has, however, given me so many inflorescences. That one is just dying off, but I have had inflow after inflow after inflow. I have tried pollinating it, but so far no luck. So yeah, I'd quite like to try pollinating this one, but there's not a huge amount of information on what you can actually cross-pollinate the vitarifolium with. I've seen lots of things on self-pollination, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So again, if you know, please let me know. But I do think as well at some point this one will require a bigger pot. I didn't even put any more substrate of any sort in when I repotted it. I just literally transferred it to what it was in before to this hanging pot. And I've got moss on top, which really is meant to kind of be a bit of an indicator as to when the plant needs a water. and currently it's bone dry. So I should really give this one a water through next. But I do just love growing it in this way. I think like when the light comes through the windows in the morning here, just looking at those strappy leaves with like light coming through them, I don't know, as you know, I'm such a massive one for texture, and it just, amongst all my other plants, just looks so beautiful and it's so different. So yeah, it's an Anthurium that I think has been very hardy. I think it's very hardy and I think it's very easy, or has been for me. But I don't love it as much as I did. That is not to say I don't love it, but I think in terms of like growing experience and how much I enjoy growing it, I might put that down the list a little bit compared to the place it was in before. I think also just because I've got so many other strappy Anthuriums that have kind of stepped into that place since then and taken that a little bit, maybe. But yeah, nonetheless, I do love it. I think it's gorgeous and is not one that I will be parting with anytime soon. Oh, okay, so that one was the first of the top 5 on the list. So we're into what were my top 5 now. I'm looking at them I've typed them out and I've put them on my laptop, and I don't agree that the next ones would still be my top 5. The next one is my Anthurium pallidiflorum. And then this one, I have said it so many times before. Firstly, it's very difficult to hold up and actually show you in shots because it is so big now. But it is one of my, if not my favourite plant, and it is the Anthurium pallidiflorum, and this one ticks all the boxes for me. It's got the lovely velvety leaves, it's got the white veination, it's just so gorgeous. And as you all know if you watch my other videos, the pallidiflorum, so I'm gonna have to put some clips in of it. You can see it up there now. Oh, up there, it is ginormous. It is almost too big to pick up and lift into shot now. But I would say the pallidiflorum is now my number 1 plant. It is beyond gorgeous. I have found it a dream to grow, honestly. It's such a good plant at letting you know when it needs something. Others in my collection, I'm like, I kind of need to guess, and I'm like, oh, I need to constantly check the soil, or I need to do this or that. I've just got very used to the signals that one gives me when it needs a drink, when it's like lacking nutrients. I've also pollinated it twice now in my time of owning it, and in fact, just next to me here, I've got some of the seeds, which if you watched my repot and chat video from, I think literally last week, you'll have seen I put some into a prop box, and already so many of them. Hang on, let me see if I can pick one up and show you. Oh, careful, careful. Yeah, do you see that? Already putting out a little root, which is so exciting. And in fact, I did send a load of berries out to people on my Patreon, and I ran out of berries, and I was like, I'm going to have to carry on with the seeds. And then I opened the box and I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? They're rooting. That makes things much more difficult. But yeah, as I say, this one has been a dream in every sense, just very quick to do things for me, which keeps me on my toes, and I just find really exciting. So yeah, the pallidiflorum would be my number 1, definitely number 1 Anthurium, if not number 1 plant. I just think it's wonderful. And then interestingly, I put the pallidiflorum narrow form just next to my pallidiflorum on the list, and I would rearrange this now. Pallidiflorum narrow form to show you here as well, which is basically exactly like this plant, but it is a narrow version. Its leaves are much thinner. And I reckon my Anthurium pallidiflorum here, the big one, was around about that size when I first got it at the beginning of the year. And obviously it has come a huge way in such a short amount of time. So this is what the narrow form is currently looking like. I would say it's sized up a little bit, but obviously it's lost quite a lot of leaves. I don't think this one, for me anyway, I don't think this one responds in the same way as the standard pallidiflorum. So far I found it much more difficult. I found it more demanding. I found it doesn't particularly like the same growing setup. And bearing in mind, I grow this plant on the shelf next to my pallidiflorum. It's getting all of the same conditions, humidity, light, heat. It's potted in a very similar substrate. And yet I've struggled a bit. So yeah, these leaves here that you're looking at that are a little bit warped, that again is due to pests when the leaves were unfurling. Sadly, those ones won't be bouncing back, but I do hope with the next leaf, which is getting ready to give me now, I hope that I can turn some corners and I can get it going. I feel like I should be able to grow this one better than I am right now, but I ambitiously ranked it at the same place as my Pallidiflorum the last time I made this video, so I would now put this kind of towards the bottom. Not because I don't love it and not because I'm not excited by it, but just because I have found it tricky. So yeah, let's say middle to bottom on the newly ranked list. And now we're down to the top two, and previously I had put the Luxurians Platinum as my second to top plant. And this is the Anthurium Luxurians. This is a Luxurians Platinum, and if you see it in the light, it's kind of got like a bluey tinge to its leaves, more so than the typical Luxurians often has. But it's such a beautiful, beautiful plant. Again, like texture for me, I love this. I know, for example, if you've got like trypophobia or like something like that, you might hate this texture of leaf, but I just think it is beautiful. And so this is what it's looking like now. This is its latest leaf, which again, classic. Do I have to say it? You can see I've had pests. Like I said, I much prefer growing the Luxurians Magnificum cross. I don't know why, I don't know what it is about it. I'm just finding that a more enjoyable plant. So I think I would probably, I don't know, I'm not finding this one difficult per se. I just don't like it quite so much. So I would say this nowadays is kind of more of a middle ground kind of plant. It's typically ticking along quite nicely, and it is one that I'm growing semi-hydro and then soil on top, again in a no drainage container. It's got crazy roots in there. And actually, I think I probably should mix things up for this plant. I think a tower pot with better aeration would do it much better. Similarly to what I was saying about the Crystallinums, I think this one that, I don't know, I just feel like it would appreciate some more aeration. And don't get me wrong, I do love the waxy shininess of the leaves. I love the texture, like even the backs of the leaves I think are so pretty. But yes, I definitely would choose the hybrids over the pure form now, which is interesting. And then finally, the one that I ranked at number one last time for how easy I found it to grow and growing rewardability is my Anthurium Big Bill. One of my biggest Anthuriums is the Anthurium Big Bill, and I'm sure this one has a better Latin name than I know, so I will put it on the screen. But this is what it looks like. I think it started putting up this leaf about maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and it's just kind of hardened off, and it is ginormous. And this one, I mean, it's called Big Bill for a reason, has got, oh, the little hanging hook just fell out. It has got incredibly big, and I absolutely see why I ranked it at number one last time, because honestly, this is the easiest Anthurium. It is so easy to grow. I think I probably said in that last video, but the reason that I got this Anthurium was because I loved the jungle bush so much, which kind of looks like an upright version of this plant. And I was just like, this will give me great growth in a short amount of time with minimal effort, and that is the case. So I don't think it necessarily excites me as much as some of my others, but is definitely not one that I would consider parting with. And I think I probably would still rank it pretty highly. I think I would probably swap this one and the Pallidiflorum on my list nowadays, just because the Pallidiflorum just is a whole other level for me. But I grow this one as a hanging plant. I haven't repotted it in well over a year, and it seems absolutely fine. I would have thought it could probably do with a little bit more root space, so that is another thing that I should probably think about doing at some point soon. But yeah, the growth it does give me is incredibly rewarding, and I also do think that this is a type of Anthurium that, although it's not going to be a low light plant, I wouldn't say it needs to be in this space. I think it could probably do quite well, like in my living room or something like that, maybe even without grow lights. So yeah, if it keeps sizing up at this rate, I think I am going to have a move about of it. So that's quite good to know. But yeah, I think it would still be top 5. But not necessarily my one. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got a lot that hasn't gone right, haven't I? Which I hope is quite reassuring for some of you. But as I say, these kind of videos are great for me because it does also allow me to talk through what's worked, what hasn't, and what I need to do going forward. And I've got so many things that I do need to do in order to really bring the best out of my Anthuriums. But I do still love the genus. It is one of my favourite genuses of plant, genera, that's the word. One of my favourite genera of plants. So yeah, let's check back in with the Anthuriums in another 6-7 months and see how they're doing then. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.